My ladies, my girls, y'all know you are not required to be a punching bag for wounds you didn't create. As you can tell by the title, the thumbnail of this video, there is something I really want you to understand. You can have compassion for that man, for what happened to that man, without volunteering to be punished for it. Because sometimes you meet a man who has a lot of unresolved anger towards his parents. Maybe his mother neglected him, or she was just mean and cruel to him because he was a boy. Maybe his father was absent, or he was mean and cruel and manipulative to him. He could have grown up watching his parents fight. He could have been criticized, controlled, humiliated. I see a lot of that working with the kids now. I see a lot of kids being humiliated. Oh, can't even get my words out. But he could have been a parentified child, emotionally neglected. I see that a lot with the little boys. Or he could have just been made to feel like he was never good enough, always being the laughing stock or the butt of the joke in the family. And those experiences can absolutely affect someone. I'm telling you now, they are going to absolutely affect a man, a little boy, whoever. But we're talking about men now because I speak mostly to heterosexual women. But really anyone, same sex, anyone. But here's where I need you to be careful, ladies. You are not his mother. You are not his father. You are not the family or the parent who hurt him. And you do not owe him a lifetime of punishment because somebody else failed him. Sometimes a man doesn't know how to control the people. He doesn't know how to confront the people who actually controlled him and hurt him. So he takes that anger somewhere safer. And unfortunately, that safer place can become his girlfriend, wife, children, his friends, his coworkers, his lady friend, or just everybody around him except those people. So now you're walking around wondering, why does everything I do make this man angry? Why does kindness make him pissed off? Like he can see you parenting your child and he'll become jealous of the relationship you have with your child because he didn't get that from his mother. He'll tell you that you're treating your son like a bitch. Why does affection make him uncomfortable? Why does he interpret every single thing? I mean, literally everything as disrespect. Any little thing you do, he plotting and scheming behind your back to get back at you. And it could have been an honest mistake or misunderstanding. Why does he constantly assume you're going to betray him? Why does he need to control you? Why does he punish you for things you didn't do? And eventually, you'll realize you're not actually being treated like you. You're being treated like the character in the story that was the villain to him. You're being treated like a character in a story that started long before you arrived. And baby, you have to be careful with that. Sometimes you're dealing with a man who is still fighting his parents through you. One of the biggest signs is when his reactions are wildly disproportionate to what's actually happening. You say something innocent and suddenly he's furious. You make a small mistake and suddenly you're hearing about how women always do this. I wouldn't it didn't shock me. I wasn't surprised. I knew you was gonna do this. You don't respond immediately and suddenly you're just like his mother. You set a boundary and suddenly you're controlling. You ask for emotional intimacy and suddenly you're too needy. You disagree with him and suddenly you're disrespectful. You're sitting there thinking, what did I do to get this type of treatment? And sometimes the answer is you activated something in him that existed before you. You brought up those feelings. That's important because it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong. You can accidentally touch an old wound without being responsible for the wound. And women have to stop confusing understanding someone's behavior with excusing it. You can understand why somebody is angry and still think you need to still tell them you don't get to treat me like this. Because watch how he talks about his parents. Listen carefully when a man tells you about his childhood. He may not say, he'll say like, his mama the only one he got. I love my mama, this and that. But you're gonna hear some little stuff in there. She always treated me different. She treated everybody better than me. You better listen. He finna take, girl, you better listen. Not because you need to psychoanalyze him, but because you're learning how he understands relationships, especially relationships with women. Does he have unresolved resentment towards his mother? A lot of men like to project onto women. They say, oh, she got daddy issues. No, baby, these men with these mommy issues, that's why they say it about women, because they know deep down inside they have mommy issues. So they're assuming that women have daddy issues. So does he have unresolved resentment towards his mother? Because if he does, you in for a ride and not a good one. Does he constantly talk about how women can't be trusted? Does he talk about his father with an intense anger or fear or contempt? Does he believe love means sacrificing yourself? Does he believe women are supposed to tolerate everything because he saw his mama do it? Does he have a relationship with his parents where he's constantly being pulled into chaos? He constantly being pulled into BS. Does he blame everybody else for his life but himself? Like literally, it's some men that'll tell you, I was on the road to do this and that, but such and such. Like he never gonna blame himself. And here is the major one. Does he recognize what happened to him, or does he use what happened to him as permission to hurt other people? Like, does he recognize, has he unpacked it? Those are two completely different things. A person saying my father treated me terribly and I don't want to become like him, that is awareness. That's unpacking it. But a person saying my father treated me terribly, so that's just how I am. That's just me. That is not accountability. There's a huge difference. You better pay attention. And I don't want you to let somebody's trauma become your job description. It is not. This is where women get trapped. You're going to start thinking and acting like if I just love him enough, it's never going to happen, baby. I'm telling you. And it's not your fault. Don't start feeling bad because you're thinking about moving on, leaving him, because he got to get it together. You got to live your life. You can live it with him, but you can't make his trauma your job. That's what therapists are for. Or you might start thinking, if I just communicate a little bit better, since his mama did it, if I'm patient with him, if I show him that I'm not like his mother, no, ma'am. If I prove that I'm trustworthy, if I reassure him enough, and before you know it, your entire relationship revolves around managing his emotional state. You're monitoring your tone. You're avoiding certain subjects. You're trying not to make him angry. You're constantly reassuring him. You're forgiving things because you know he had a hard childhood. You're giving him more chances because you understand where the behavior comes from. And now you're not in a relationship. Now you're managing a grown man's unresolved childhood. That's the problem. That's exhausting. And more importantly, it's not your responsibility. You need to pay attention to whether he actually wants to heal, because this is where compassion and empathy, it needs a boundary. Because yes, you can help somebody, you can listen, you can encourage therapy, you can encourage healthier communication, you can be supportive while they're working through difficult things. You can be patient with somebody who is genuinely trying, but there is a difference between supporting someone's healing and becoming their emotional dumping ground, their emotional punching bag. If every conversation is about his pain, but he never changes his behavior, he using you. If he tells you his childhood story every time you confront him with something, he is playing on your emotions. If every bad thing he does gets explained but never corrected, he's using you. If he expects unlimited patience but he gives you none, he's not trying to work with you. If he constantly asks you to understand him but refuses to understand you, if he says that's just how I am, whenever you ask for better treatment, you need to pay attention. Because I've been through this. It's not worth it. Because now we're no longer talking about somebody who simply has wounds. We're talking about somebody who may be using those wounds to avoid accountability. And women need to understand this distinction is a distraction. Trauma can explain behavior. Yes, it can, but it does not automatically excuse behavior. Don't become the woman who thinks she can save him. No, a lot of women who thought they could save him, they are lower than the man is now. They were completely drained, life turned upside down. This one is hard because women are naturally compassionate, especially when you see the little boy underneath that angry man. You might even have a son, but you can't look at it like that because that's not your son. You hear what his mother did and you hear what his father did. You hear about what he went through growing up and how the family always singled him out or left him out. And suddenly you sit here thinking like he just needs somebody to love him correctly. But sometimes the person you're trying to love is actively refusing to do the work necessary to receive healthy love. And that's when you have to step back. I'm telling you, ladies, you have to step back because you cannot heal somebody who benefits from staying wounded. He is benefiting from not healing, from not doing the work, from not being accountable. You cannot make somebody accountable who is committed to blaming everybody else. You cannot teach emotional regulation to somebody who thinks your suffering is the price of his comfort. And you definitely cannot love somebody into respecting you if they don't believe they need to respect you. Here's how you know he's actually trying. A man who genuinely wants to heal may still mess up. He may have triggers. He may get defensive sometimes. He may have moments where old habits come back. But there's something different about somebody who is actually trying. They take accountability. So he's going to take accountability. He's going to eventually say, okay, I overreacted. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. That wasn't fair. It wasn't right. You didn't cause what happened to me. I need to work on this. And most importantly, his behavior starts changing. Not just his vocabulary, not just his apologies, not just his explanations, his behavior. Because anybody can tell you about their trauma. Anybody can cry. Anybody can give you a heartbreaking childhood story. Anybody can say, you don't understand what I've been through. But healing is demonstrated through behavior. And if you want to help him, help without becoming his therapist, you can let him know that you care about him and you understand what happened to him and you understand that it affected him. But you need to let him know, I can't be the person you punish because of what somebody else did. You can encourage him to seek professional support. You can listen when he's willing to talk respectfully. You can give him space to process and unpack. You can tell him when his behavior is hurting you. But you also have to have boundaries because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for somebody is stop participating in the dynamic that allows them to remain emotionally immature. And if he genuinely wants help, your boundary won't destroy him. It will give him a choice. He can grow or he can continue doing what he's doing. But what if he doesn't want help? Then believe him. This is where I really want women to stop romanticizing the potential. If you've explained the problem 10 times, if you've communicated your boundaries, if you've given him resources, if you've encouraged him to get help, if you've been patient and he still keeps mistreating you, stop calling it a healing journey because it's not. Sometimes it's simply somebody choosing not to change. And that's painful to accept. Yes, it is, because you might know exactly why he behaves the way he does. You might understand his mother. You might understand his father. You might understand his childhood. You might understand every wound he's told you about. But understanding somebody does not mean you have to stay close enough to get wounded by them. You can understand the story and still leave the character behind. You don't let him turn you into his emotional ATM. And this is another thing women need to watch for. Some people don't actually want healing. They want access to someone else's empathy. They want somebody else who will listen endlessly, comfort them endlessly, forgive them endlessly, give endlessly, and expect nothing in return. They want the benefit of your emotional labor without doing any emotional labor themselves. That's when you have to ask yourself, is this person healing with me, or are they feeding off of my healing? Because there is a difference. One person is growing, the other person is consuming. One person eventually gives back, the other person keeps taking. One person wants to become healthier, the other person wants you to become more tolerant of their dysfunction. And you need to know which one you're dealing with. So, ladies, please remember, you can have empathy without becoming collateral damage. You can understand his childhood without becoming his emotional punching bag. You can feel sorry for what his parents did to him without allowing him to do the same thing to you. You can encourage him to heal without taking responsibility for healing him. And you can love him deeply and still recognize that he is not healthy enough to be in your life. Because your relationship should not become the place where somebody finally gets to punish the world for everything that happened to them. You did not create his wounds, and you don't have to spend your life proving that you're not the people who hurt him. Let him decide what he's going to do with his pain. If he wants to heal, support him where it's healthy. If he wants accountability, meet him there. But if he wants to use his pain as an excuse to control you, punish you, manipulate you, drain you, or make you responsible for his emotional stability, get out the way, girl. If he want to grow, you can grow with him. But if he trying to use that pain for all that stuff I just said, you need to get out the way. Because you are not his mother, you're not his father, his family, you're not his past. And you are not the person he gets to punish for what somebody else did to him. This is Pretty Girl Rich Era, where we heal, level up, and become the best version of ourselves. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, loves.